Hey everybody, it's Crimson Rosso here. And recently, we hit a new milestone on the channel. We hit 200 subs. I am absolutely so thankful for everyone who has stuck with me on this journey. And to celebrate this little milestone, I decided let's do another top 10 list. And this time, we're going to do one on the Wii U system. A system that really didn't get a lot of love due to Nintendo not giving it a lot of love, if we're being honest. Now, the rules that will apply to this list are the same ones that applied to my top 10 GBA games list, so no remakes or remasters are allowed, but they do count if they were ported to another console at a later date. And let's be honest, I wouldn't be able to do a top 10 of this system if I didn't have that, considering all of the good games are now on the Switch. Without further ado, let's get started. You know, the idea of fusing together an action-adventure game like Legend of Zelda with the insane combat craziness of Dynasty Warriors seemed like such a good idea, it's kind of crazy it didn't happen sooner. Now, the game is basically what you want out of it. A Dynasty Warrior game with Zelda characters. But the game is at the same time a lot more than that. The ability to play as not just Link, Zelda, and Ganon, but alongside the chances to finally play as characters like Impa, or Minfa, or even the new characters that were introduced, Lana and Sid, or hell, even Ghirahim or Zant. Each with a fun and unique playstyle that, pardon my French, absolutely fucks. I highly recommend picking up this bad boy. And you can on the Switch. Hell, you can pick up with the Switch where it has basically all the DLC and even a couple new characters added. Go give it a try. It's definitely worth your time. With number 10 out of the way, let's move on to number 9. You know, sometimes I want a game to genuinely challenge me to push myself to my limits with a deep lore like Dark Souls. Sometimes I want a game to absolutely break my heart with a beautiful narrative and some fantastic gameplay like Crisis Core Reunion. And sometimes I just want a cute, fun experience to smile about. And that's exactly what Woolly World provides. Woolly World is a cute, very pretty to look at, super fun platformer in the style of something like Yoshi's Story on the N64 or Yoshi's Island on the Super Nintendo. Just a cute, fun time with our pal Yoshi. In a bunch of very vibrant and unique levels, with an interesting art style added to the game in the form of everything looking like wool. And that wool aesthetic comes a lot of really cool designs for Yoshi. Stuff like Game Boys to frickin' zebra stripes. There's a lot of designs that they use when they fully bring the potential of the yarn and wool aesthetic right to this game's doorstep. Now, there isn't a lot to this game, but what you're picking up is what you're looking for. A cute, fun time full of smiles and warmth that just feels good to play through. And that's why it's one of my favorite games, because I believe in those kinds of games needing to exist. They just make us happy. You know, I'm usually not a huge fan of puzzle games. I don't dislike them by any means, but I'd rather be fighting monsters in an RPG or filling people full of lead than solving a puzzle. But man, did Treasure Tracker really come close to making me change my mind about them. The game was able to take something like collecting some items on a screen, you know, one of those kind of tedious side quests in games, and make it into a genuinely fun game. The best part of this game for me was its level design. Every level is designed similar to a 3D diorama, and several levels have just so much personality to them. Like the level based off a giant train, or a minecart level that turns into a pseudo shoot-'em-up, or even a level based off the old Donkey Kong arcade game. The game is an absolute joy to play through. Also, if you pick up the ported remaster that's now on the Switch, you actually get access to even more levels. So go give it a try. It's definitely worth your time, trust me. You know, looking back on the Wii U, it's still kind of surprising how few Pokemon games the system even had. Counting them up without the inclusion of something like the Virtual Store, it's just 2. I'm not even kidding, it's only 2. And one of those, while being a mediocre game that I've criticized pretty heavily in an older video, the other was Pokken Tournament. An absolute slam dunk of an arena fighter that had some of the most fun combat in pretty much any Pokemon game and Wii U game in general. Although I am still kind of confused on why it was pitched as a Tekken Pokemon combo, as its gameplay is more similar to the Ninja Storm games, and if you've ever played those games, then you can get why this one is as fun as it is. Great graphics, special combos, goofy super moves. I just wish the roster was a bit bigger, but goddamn is this game just so much fun to sit down and play with your friends. If you get a chance, go play this game. It's absolutely worth your time. Especially since it seems like they don't have any interest in making a Pokken Tournament 2. At least not right now. Come on, Pokemon Company, it's easy money. You all know we'll pay money to see Pikachu Cold Stone Stunner a Garchomp. We'll pay money for that. I don't think I've ever really talked about how much I absolutely love the Donkey Kong Country games. And how could I not? They're beautiful, unique, and bring a genuine challenge to their gameplay and level design. And Tropical Freeze may just be one of the best works yet in the series. Its graphics and levels are top notch. Yes, even those evil minecart levels are absolutely amazing. They also really improved upon the gameplay from Donkey Kong Country Returns on the Wii, in the form of more characters joining DK throughout his journey than just Diddy Kong. And these characters that join him grant him more abilities to use through levels. Cranky gives him a better jump, and Dixie Kong gives him like this little flying thing with her bandana that can really save you when you need it. And trust me, you're going to need it a lot. And best of all, no more goddamn motion controls. I do believe the boss fights are a little too long feeling at some points, but even with that small complaint, it's still definitely one of the best platformers around, and a must-play who want a genuinely challenging platformer to test their skills. Alrighty, so I've got a small little confession to make here. I actually prefer the 3D platformer Mario games over the 2D side-scrollers. I still really like them, don't get me wrong, but if you had to make me choose, I'd be picking something like Mario Odyssey or Galaxy over something like Super Mario World or New Super Mario Bros. But even with my bias towards the 3D games, I gotta say that Super Mario Maker blows most of them completely out of the water. Mario Maker is like the equivalent of a do-it-yourself book. It offers you a lot of stuff to do what you want, and then trust your imagination to figure out the rest. This leads to a near infinite amount of crazy cool ideas, from stuff like faithful recreations of older Mario games, to levels designed around other video game characters, to dangerous hellscapes that break your sanity while trying to complete them, to even troll-based levels that make you want to hunt down this person's IP address so you can kick down their door at night. It's an absolute paradise for fans of both Mario and 2D side-scrollers, and it would definitely be higher if only I liked the 2D Mario games more. I mean, is it really a surprise that a Smash Bros. Game made my top 10 list? I'm a gigantic simp for the series, and I absolutely love pretty much every installment. But all D-sucking aside, I do genuinely love Smash Bros. For the Wii U. And it still holds my belief that it is one of the best party series ever made. From the crazy gameplay that was made even crazier with the inclusion of 8-way Smash that, while a total fustercluck, made for a super fun time with friends. And while they weren't as well balanced as I hoped they would be, it was still pretty cool to get more fighters via the DLC. While I don't think it's the best Smash Bros. Experience ever made, it's still a super fun game to play with friends, and it's also the game that introduced me to Shulk from Xenoblade, which led me to try out the series, which has since then become one of my favorite JRPG series ever. Hell, I still kick myself for never playing X. One day. One day. Now we're on to a game with one of the most checkered histories in the Atlus franchise. For those who don't know, this game was at first presented as a full-on crossover between Fire Emblem and SMT, and it had fans all over excited. But as time went on, it started to change very drastically. and instead became an all-new IP that had an all-new cast, fusing with Fire Emblem characters and battle monsters using a combat system more in line with SMT or Persona. As a result of this change, a lot of people decided to completely ignore the game and play something else. And so they sadly missed out on what was actually an incredibly entertaining experience. The gameplay and combat were absolutely incredible. It felt like I was playing a version of Persona 5 based around music and idols instead of shadows and palaces. The soundtrack was an absolute banger, boasting some top tier OSTs that I wish I could show without the fear of copyright. But I do personally think the level design could have been a bit better. Although, even with that complaint, Tokyo Mirage Sessions really fits the idea that even if the original concept isn't what fans wanted it to be, it can still create an absolutely stellar game in the process. Here's hoping Atlus makes a Tokyo Mirage Sessions 2 one day. I would be all for it. Don't you dare give me that look. You know for a fact this belongs all the way up here. Mario 3D World is just that good. It takes the 2D side-scrolling game style fans fell in love with all those years ago and almost transfers it over into a pseudo 3D level layout. And with it came some of the best levels I've ever played in a 3D Mario game, along with a really interesting and absolutely adorable power-up in the form of the cat suit, which granted powers and mobility options that made traversal through each level way more interesting than I thought it ever could be. But my absolute favorite part of this game was its multiplayer component. Running through the levels and competing with your friends to see who could get the high score was just so much fun. Granted, it didn't get a controller thrown at your head when you stole somebody's star. All hooting aside, if this is the kind of direction that Mario games will be following going forward, then I am so glad I am a fan of this franchise. And my hopes have never been higher. Aw yeah, here it is, folks. The sexy, stylish sequel that made its way to number 1 on my top 10 Wii U games list. Bayonetta 2 does everything right, not just when it comes to a sequel, but when it comes to a game in general. Absolutely fluid and fun as hell combat, great enemy balancing, no dumbass escort missions where you're protecting some kid, improved level design in every area that makes exploring way cooler, great frame rate throughout all of the levels, and most of all, Bayonetta herself is somehow even more of a badass than she is in the first game, and that is genuinely saying something. Plus, toss in some alternate costumes that not only change your appearance, but even change your own weapons, and set pieces like putting on the Link outfit giving you a Master Sword, or the Fox outfit turning a plain shoot-'em-up section into an R-Wing. Absolutely love these little details. Those little details that I just mentioned, along with the several other amazing things about it, is what makes it an absolute gem and my absolute favorite Wii U game of all time. And that is the end of that. Thank you all so much for watching my 200 sub special. This was a lot of fun to make, and I hope you all stick with me for the rest of my YouTube journey. The next sub goal will be 400 subs. Have a lovely day, everybody.